Welcome guys to another unboxing and product review. Today we're going to look at the dynamic budget microphone, the Behringer Ultravoice XM8500, because I've seen this recently on my YouTube channel. The question, or one of the viewers that came up, was really centered around what kind of setup should I get for YouTube? Should I get a dynamic microphone? Should I get a condenser microphone? What audio interface should I use, or even buy a nice mic preamp to go with my microphone? And guys, honestly, I found it a little bit hard to answer that in the comments, so that's why in this video I'm quickly gonna recap a few things about preamps, audio interfaces, and then refer to how this pertains to picking a microphone. So with that, maybe you can look at the navigation below. You should see this right now. Basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do an unboxing of this Behringer Ultravoice XM8500 for you. And then in the unboxing, I'm gonna show you a few close-up shots, the quality of the microphone, and then in part 2 we're going to conduct a sound test, and I'm going to show you how the mic sounds with an external audio interface and a preamp, and I'm going to even add some compression to make the sound even nicer. So why don't we get started with the unboxing? And yeah, in part 3 I'm going to show you the summary or my conclusion, and all along the way I'm going to sprinkle in some of the things that I've personally learned about of how to pick the right microphone audio interface kind of combination. So let's get rolling with the unboxing. So what we're gonna do before we jump into the unboxing, maybe I'm gonna give you a little bit of the backstory behind the case that the viewer presented to me, because basically he was asking me, should I buy this microphone or should I buy that microphone? Should I buy this audio interface or that audio interface? And by the way, I'm on a tight budget. I can only spend, I don't know, $50, $60 or something like that. And guys, while I understand that some people might be on a budget, I mean, the Behringer product, especially the Ultravoice, I think is a really surprisingly good microphone, considering the price point. If you compare it to classic and very often sold Shure SM58, I mean, in Shure SM58, is gonna be considerably more expensive than, let's say, an Ultravoice. The thing is, in my playbook, usually I like to use high quality cables and a preamp as well as an external audio interface. But obviously in the case of the viewer, he didn't want to use like a $100 preamp, he didn't want to use an $80 audio interface, and he certainly doesn't want to use a $30 quality cable made in Germany. So essentially what I did, I recommended him this microphone with a cheap audio interface and a cheap cable. But I'm really curious to see what kind of results he's getting out of this budget configuration, because my personal opinion is, if you use a budget microphone with like these more quality components, you're really going to get the maximum out of the budget mic, which is kind of a weird combination. So maybe what I'm going to do in some of my upcoming reviews, I'm just going to test this Behringer microphone with a cheap Behringer USB interface, and see whether I can get a difference between that configuration and my normal stock configuration. So guys, but before I talk too much, I think I digress. Like I said, the Ultravoice XM8500 comes like in really nice packaging. You have this carrying box. I think the packaging is actually nicer than with the Shure. At least the Shure doesn't have like one of these nice carrying boxes. Look how nice that looks. And I wouldn't review this right now if I wouldn't be convinced that it's a really great budget value. It literally reminds me so much of the Shure SM58 that maybe if I can hold this here next to each other, I mean, you can see how remarkable similar this is. Maybe I can take this off here real quick and show you the similarity here. As you can see here, I mean, the quality is probably a little bit better with the Shure from the build quality. But hey, the Shure is like really expensive, and like in the case of my viewer, a Shure was simply out of his price range. I mean, if you spend $100 or more for a Shure, plus the cable, plus the $100 audio interface, like in my playbook, you can easily spend $200 for a dynamic microphone, cable, and audio interface. But the viewer only had like a quarter of the budget for it, so he had to be content with spending 25%, something like this, on his personal setup. So yeah, guys, before I talk too much, you have seen all the close-up shots. I have compared the Shure against the Behringer build quality wise, and you see these microphones are really modular. If something ever breaks, I mean, like, these things are so solid, both the Shure as well as the Ultravoice. I feel like, yeah, if someone comes into your house at night, I mean, I think you can hit them over the head with that. It's like, it literally feels so solid as if it's a weapon. So guys, don't do that. Don't hit anybody with your precious microphone. Use it for audio only. So why don't I just take this out real quick and then connect it to my audio interface, and then we get started with the sound test. So obviously, first thing you want to do, connect your microphone to your audio interface or preamp. Just plug in the cable here, and then the other one, and obviously you need an XLR to XLR cable. Now this Tube MPC, it's somewhat of a specialized preamp, but you can imagine if you had like a Focusrite or a Behringer audio interface that has USB, then that basically would be your USB audio interface, and you would just plug the USB cable in and you would be ready to go. In my case, since this is not a USB device but a dedicated tube preamp, personally I like the tube preamps because they create like a nice warm sound, and this even has a compression feature in. And maybe I can put the link below to the Tube MPC. I did a separate review for this as well. But yeah, as you can see here, now I'm gonna take this output signal from here, connect the output signal, and then plug with a second cable the preamp into my audio interface input. And then audio interface input could be connected with the computer, and basically here is where the sound gets converted from analog to digital and then sent to my computer. This is a very old firewire interface. I doubt most people still have firewire. Most people are probably going to be on USB audio interfaces. But hey, I have an old Mac, and that's how I do my recordings. But guys, you can see, like, if you want to use professional gear, it can quickly add up. I mean, for the most people who are on a budget, they're probably going to just pick a USB microphone, simply because having a separate audio interface, having a separate preamp, having two separate high quality cables, it just keeps adding up to the price point. And in the case of my viewer, that was really not an option. But for my testing purposes, I still like to do it that way, because I want to test these budget microphones with quality equipment to see what these budget microphones are capable of. And I'm pretty sure you could even take even more expensive hardware to use these microphones. So maybe I do that one day. But guys, I digress. What we're going to do right now, we're going to jump into the computer and do the sound test. So let's jump into the computer. So guys, you're now listening to the Behringer Ultravoice XM8500, and I hope you can get an impression of how this entry-level budget mic sounds. And maybe I'm going to walk you to the settings of my preamp a little bit. Basically my preamp, I mean, if you have just an audio interface, it's going to be considerably simpler. You just plug it into the audio interface, and there's one gain knob. In my case, it's a tube preamp. It's a little bit geeky. So in essence, if you look over here, you can see it has input gain. Basically, that input gain controls how sensitive this tube inside here is with the input signal. And since the Behringer is a dynamic microphone, you probably want to increase the gain a little bit more, as opposed when using a phantom powered mic. Phantom powered mics get the phantom power. They're usually more sensitive, and that's also like a thing that I always like to point out, that I like dynamic microphones because they have like different pickup pattern. They just pick up what's in front of them, and if something goes on over there, it's not going to pick it up nearly as much as if you have a super sensitive phantom powered condenser microphone. And yeah, so in essence, in the middle there's the compression section. Compression is also like a really useful feature if your voice gets a little bit louder, or if you get closer to the microphone. I mean, if I get further away, the compression will work less. If I get closer to the microphone, the compression will start, as you can see here, work more. So essentially the compression can equalize the signal, which comes in handy because obviously you want to have a certain amount of dynamic range, but you don't want to have like really quiet points and really loud points, because obviously for a listener that's inconvenient if he has to change the volume while listening to a recording, or if the listener suddenly faces, let's say someone has on headphones and listens to your podcast and the volume is just right, and all of a sudden it's really loud, or it's very quiet. That's kind of annoying. A compressor can really help you equalize it out. So I guess what I still can do is I can switch over to this trusty old Shure in a second for you and give you like a example of this. I always like to use this as a reference mic. So why don't I just stop the recording for a second and then switch over to the Shure, and then we see how that sounds. There, I'm back again. Now we're listening to the Shure SM58. That should be a really nice comparison. Now you can see this is silver, while the Behringer is like black over here. And in essence, I haven't done anything. I haven't changed the settings on my compressor. I haven't changed the input gain. I haven't changed the output gain. So yeah, that's how the Shure SM58 sounds. And I mean, as long as you have a decent audio interface, maybe like a Focusrite or this Yamaha MG series of USB mixers, where I also have a review for on my channel, then you should get really nice sound out of these dynamic microphones. So guys, that wraps up this unboxing and sound test of the Behringer XM8500. And what we're gonna do right now is just jump out of the computer and I'm gonna give you a quick conclusion. So this concludes today's review of the Behringer XM8500 budget entry-level dynamic microphone. As you have seen, the build quality is surprisingly good. It comes with this really nice case. I guess for that price point, I really can't complain. And in the test, we also have made a direct sound comparison against the industry classic, the Shure SM58. So in essence, I have given you like a real reference comparison with quality audio hardware. Like I've shown you the preamp, I've shown you the preamp settings, and talked a little bit about the compressor. So guys, I hope this helps. I mean, I introduced this video to you with the viewer question of what gear should I buy when I'm on a budget. Obviously, these Behringer products I see for the most part are all, I mean, maybe not all, but a fair bit of the Behringer product range is geared towards budget, entry-level users who maybe just want to use it as a hobby every now and then, or just want to get started and learn a little bit about the difference between dynamic microphones, condenser microphones, preamps, different audio interfaces, and so on. And yeah guys, maybe I haven't pointed this out before, but like, do you see that it has a cardioid pickup pattern? That's one thing I really would pay attention to when picking a microphone. What is going to be the scenario in which you're going to use it? Obviously, if you're in a voiceover booth that has really good sound dampening and you want to do voiceovers, then you don't have to do it with a dynamic microphone. You can easily get a condenser microphone with the phantom power. That, in my opinion, that will probably lead you better results. But in the case of my viewer, it was like the case he just wanted to make a few voice recordings for YouTube. Excuse me, not voiceovers. I mean, the main point that I want to bring across is that, let's say you're in your room and there's noise coming from outside, or your computer sits on your desk and it's very loud, or when you talk there are reflective surfaces in your room, then it might be more challenging to make a sound recording with a super sensitive condenser mic, because the sound waves are going to bounce around. This the sound of your computer. The condenser mic will pick up way more sound from the surroundings and therefore maybe mess with your sound, versus these two dynamic microphones with this pickup pattern. So really think a little bit about your use scenario, and yeah, that way you're probably going to get the best results even if you're on a budget. So guys, that concludes this video. I see you as a subscriber on my channel, and in the next video I have lots of more of these audio equipment and video equipment videos on my channel. All the best to you, take care. And yeah guys, besides all the audio and video equipment videos on my channel, I also did recently a Mac Pro upgrade guide. How to upgrade a cheap Mac Pro from eBay to get insane performance that can easily compete with these newer trash can Macs. So you might want to check this out as well. And yeah, thanks for watching. I see you as a subscriber on my channel and maybe even in one of my online training courses. So all the best to you. Take care.